Cowboys fans, stop what you're doing right now because we have official movement out of the NFL Combine. And this is the news everyone expected but still needed to see confirmed. The Dallas Cowboys are placing the franchise tag on George Pickens. That's right. After days of speculation, quiet reporting, and behind-the-scenes conversations, it's now crystal clear. Pickens is not sniffing the open market. The Cowboys are locking him down, at least for now. And while this may feel like the most predictable move in the world, don't get it twisted. This situation is layered, complicated, and potentially explosive, depending on how the next few months unfold. Reports started surfacing from insiders like Jory Epstein that the expectation was the tag would be applied before the deadline, and now that expectation has turned into reality. Todd Archer confirmed the Cowboys will officially place the tag on Pickens, and Jeremy Fowler added that Dallas informed Pickens camp the night before, so this wasn't a last-second scramble. This was calculated. This was planned. The Cowboys knew exactly what they were doing. Now let's zoom out for a second. The franchise tag deadline hits on March 3rd, and there was absolutely no universe where Dallas was going to let George Pickens test free agency. That was never logical. That was never realistic. You don't trade for a dynamic receiver, watch him produce at a high level, then just let him walk for nothing. Especially not in today's NFL where elite wide receivers are commanding massive contracts and changing games every single Sunday. The tag projection comes in around $28 million, depending on which cap service you look at. It's hovering between roughly $28.0 and $28.8 million. Either way, that's a monster one-year number. And that's where this conversation gets interesting because placing the tag is the easy part. The real question, the one that will define this offseason, is simple. Will George Pickens actually play on that tag? There are two paths here. Path one, the Cowboys and Pickens hammer out a long-term extension before the July 15th deadline. Path two, they don't. And if they don't, things could get uncomfortable because while $28 million is a massive payday, players and agents don't love the franchise tag. It limits long-term security. It delays guaranteed money structures. It shifts leverage in unpredictable ways. Pickens' agency is not exactly known for encouraging clients to just happily play on tags without pushing for maximum value. And here's the financial reality. If he plays on the tag this year at roughly $28 million and then gets tagged again next year, you're looking at over $60 million across 2 seasons. That averages north of $31 million per year. So any long-term deal discussion has to start above that number. There is zero financial logic for his camp to accept less per year than what 2 tags would equal. So now you're talking about $31, $32, maybe even $33 million annually as the realistic floor. And if we look at the wide receiver market, that number isn't crazy anymore. Top tier guys are living in that range. The Cowboys know it. Pickens knows it. His agents definitely know it. But here's where another wrinkle enters the conversation. There have been subtle reports suggesting Dallas had some hesitation about immediately finalizing a long-term extension, and it's not about talent on the field. Pickens delivered. The chemistry was there. The production was real. The impact was obvious. Compared to how things ended in Pittsburgh, this situation is far more stable. But there have been quiet concerns about punctuality and attendance, missing meetings, being late, the infamous missed team bus incident. These aren't catastrophic issues, but they are data points organizations consider when committing $100+ million in guarantees. To be clear, the Cowboys are not shopping Pickens. That has been made clear publicly by leadership. There is no active trade market being explored. This isn't a we tagged him so we can flip him situation. This is a we're keeping our leverage while we evaluate the long-term picture move. Big difference. Now let's talk about the salary cap because this is where fans start to panic. Slapping a $28 million tag number onto your books is heavy. Add in other tenders and contracts, and Dallas is currently sitting well over the projected cap. But here's the thing. This isn't some impossible puzzle. The Cowboys have mechanisms. They have restructures. They have extensions they can maneuver. Restructuring Dak Prescott alone can free up over $30 million. Adjusting CeeDee Lamb's deal opens up another chunk. Tyler Smith's contract can be manipulated for relief. There are defensive contracts that can be reworked. When you start stacking those moves, the path to cap compliance becomes very clear. It's not painless, but it's manageable. The bigger philosophical question is what Dallas wants to prioritize because freeing up space just to survive is different than freeing up space to aggressively spend. And there's a sense that the Cowboys want to address the defense in a meaningful way this offseason. Linebacker help, front 7 reinforcement, secondary depth. Those aren't cheap additions if you're serious about competing deep into January. So imagine this scenario. Dallas restructures major contracts. They clear cap room. They either extend Pickens before July 15th or let him play on the tag. Then they pivot aggressively into free agency or the trade market to fortify the defense. That's the optimistic blueprint. That's the version fans are hoping materializes. But history gives us pause. The Cowboys franchise tag history is not great. Tony Pollard was tagged and left the following year. Dalton Schultz was tagged and then gone. Dak Prescott was tagged twice before finally landing a long-term deal. DeMarcus Lawrence required a second tag before resolution. Dez Bryant remains one of the rare examples where Dallas tagged a player and quickly reached a long-term agreement that stuck. Patterns matter, and the pattern suggests tagging doesn't automatically equal long-term harmony in Dallas. Sometimes it's a bridge, sometimes it's a standoff. Now let's get real about leverage. If July 15th comes and goes without a deal, Pickens does not have to participate in off-season programs. He doesn't have to rush to training camp. He won't miss game checks during voluntary activities. The pressure builds only as regular season paychecks approach, and that's when brinkmanship becomes real. Do I think he sits out regular season games? Probably not. $28 million is hard to walk away from, but could we see a tense camp? Could we see a late arrival? That's absolutely within the realm of possibility if negotiations stall. And that's why the guaranteed money threshold matters so much. Based on projections, you're likely looking at 60+ million in guarantees to even start serious conversations. Total deal value could land north of 130 million over 4 years if you're aligning with the upper receiver market. That's a commitment. That's not a casual investment. That's declaring him a foundational pillar of your offense. And here's the core question for the Cowboys. Do they believe George Pickens is that guy long-term? If the answer is yes, then dragging this out only inflates the price. If the answer is hesitation, then playing on the tag buys you another evaluation year but risks relationship strain and future leverage complications. From a pure football standpoint, the trade for Pickens has been productive. He elevated the passing attack. He stretched defenses. He provided physicality and playmaking that complemented CeeDee Lamb beautifully. Losing him would create a massive void. Replacing him in free agency would likely cost similar money anyway, without the established chemistry. So financially, strategically, and competitively, a long-term extension makes sense. The question is structure. How much guaranteed up front? How aggressive with signing bonus? How flexible with future outs? Those details will define whether this becomes a smooth extension or a drawn-out saga. There's also an intangible vibe around this offseason that feels slightly different. There's a sense the Cowboys may be more willing to spend or maneuver creatively compared to recent years. Maybe that means a surprise free agent splash. Maybe it means a strategic trade. Maybe it simply means being more proactive instead of reactive, but that feeling hasn't existed consistently in previous off seasons. Still, optimism must be balanced with realism. The tag number sitting on your books constrains flexibility. Even if you can clear space, every restructure pushes money into future years. Every extension shifts risk forward. There's always a cost. At the end of the day, though, this move was inevitable. George Pickens was not hitting free agency. The Cowboys were not going to risk losing a prime offensive weapon. The franchise tag is the bridge. Now we wait to see if it becomes a highway to a long-term deal or a narrow path to another year of uncertainty. So let me ask you straight up, what is your confidence level in the Cowboys handling this situation correctly? On a scale from 1 to 10, where do you land? Because this isn't just about one player. It's about cap philosophy. It's about roster construction. It's about organizational decisiveness. And one more thing. What's the most you'd pay George Pickens per year? 33 million, 34. Do you draw a hard line at 35? If he asked for 40, most would probably say, let him play on the tag. But if you can settle in that low 30s range with smart guarantees, that might be the sweet spot. This is one of those off seasons where a single contract could ripple through the entire roster. The next few months will tell us whether Dallas is prepared to fully commit or simply delay the inevitable. Make sure you stay locked in because every update from the combine and beyond is going to matter. This story isn't over. It's just entering its most important chapter.